And while we're talking about meets, it should be noted that the 27th of February is the 25th anniversary of the road meet.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, today is the 24th.
So so the New Orleans meet was the last meet in the first 25 years.
Yeah.
How about that? Ending on a strong note.
And then the first meet of the next 25 years is in Atlanta.
That's right. Is that next
week? The
week?
meet that is called a mini meet.
Well, a lot of mini meets actually just wind up becoming more or less regular meets.
Yeah,
it's just like a mini meet.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I don't really like the term mini meet. Because as you said, most of them just end up being regular road meets anyway, and to me the term mini meet kind of it gives a vibe of it's not an actual full-length event, which to me I think sort of discourages attendance to some degree because people aren't going to travel as far for something that's not a full-length thing. You know.
Right. Well, I think the initial idea of the mini meet was it was more invitational, or it was supposed to be more local, or it was just to focus on like one, maybe two things.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that people can construe this, so I think that probably is a subject best talked about later.
Well, you don't want to do a presentation on that tonight?
We can do that afterward.
Well, we can do a doubleheader. That's fine.
Does anybody want to attend that? We'll send an invitation.
Well, there used to be a lot more quote-unquote invitational events years ago, right?
Right.
And then that kind of fell out of favor.
That's really the only way you could get the word out was through word of mouth or MTR.
Yeah.
Right, and we also had Yahoo groups. We had mailing lists on Yahoo as well originally. Yeah, but what is going on in? What are they planning on seeing at the Atlanta meet? It'll be the North Atlanta area. It'll feature the mostly complete 285-400 interchange, and time permitting, they'll also check out Spaghetti Junction.
Spaghetti Junction. Which one is that?
It's 85 and 285, the Northeast interchange.
Oh, yeah, that one's a pretty cool interchange, yeah.
Yeah.
And Peachtree.
Well, that's everything.
I think they're going to begin, now that the 285-400 is about done, they're going to start on the southern...
Building building a new arena for the next Atlanta hockey team.
Yeah, I guess they're going to try again, huh?
And there's talk.
That's the way it's sounding right now, yeah.
Yeah.
They're just doing one expansion team?
No, there's Salt Lake City, the ownership group that wants a team in Salt Lake City. They've basically asked, that they want to open up the expansion process for them.
Oh,
so there's other cities are like, okay, it's like we are looking at this, and the NHL, they'll probably want to keep things a little more geographically balanced.
Yeah. Is there a city team more than Salt Lake?
Quebec.
I was going to say Milwaukee.
Well, that Milwaukee too, but definitely Quebec.
Quebec. Mm-hmm. And I think either one of them more than Atlanta.
Yep. Or you know what city really needs an NHL team?
Albany.
I was going to say Toronto.
Yeah, because I don't know who this team is.
Every once in a while, there are rumors about a second team in Toronto or putting a team in Hamilton or something like that. But
Right, the Sabres will fight
happening.
tooth and nail against Hamilton, but if they build an arena, let's say, north or east of downtown Toronto, the Sabres can't really argue against that because it's far enough away where it doesn't really affect, their attendance.
Yeah, right. Yeah, everybody's getting an expansion team except for Quebec City because I think they are by far the smallest market out of any.
Right, I think they are smaller than. I think they're smaller than Winnipeg.
Yeah, Canada is all told.
Right.
Yeah, and that's.
If you're talking about the U.S., Canada combined, Green Bay may challenge that.
Yeah, but that's why Quebec City won't ever get a team. Because it's all about TV money. It's all about eyeballs on TV sets and all the media contracts and the revenue that comes in for these big markets. So the NHL will try again to make places like Atlanta and Phoenix work before they ever consider putting a team back in Quebec. I mean, it sucks. I mean, I know that they're hardcore hockey fans up there, but they don't make decisions for the fans anymore. It's all about the money.
Right. Oh, yeah. Or Hartford, for that matter. I'd love a team to come back to Hartford, but that's not going to be happening either.
Yeah, that's never going to happen either. Yeah.
Well, they would be my closest NHL team.
Okay.
It's a couple. Yeah, Hartford's a 2-hour drive away from Albany, so.
Okay.
I'm still going to be an Islander fan until I die, though.
Well, that's fair. Yeah.
So let's move the Islanders up to Hartford to make things.
Now they built a nice new arena that they opened up. Oh, and that new arena, Dan's been there too. That is very nice. It's the arena that the Islander fans deserved after years of having to put up with, different arena proposals that never went through, and they having to play in Barclays for a few years. Basically, it's nice for the Islanders to have a place to call their own that is state of the art.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Their own is important.
Yes, the fantastic hockey arena that was Barclays Center.
Yeah, where I remember buying 4 seats and then not realizing that there was a divider in the middle.
Oh my god!
Nosebleed.
That was my fail.
Yeah.
Anyways, the presentation begins at 6:10.
Oh, look, it's 6:10. You guys want to start?
Yes.
All right.
Sure, why not?
Well, it's 6:10, so I'm going to crack open a beer here. If you heard that. All right. Good evening, everybody. After a week off, we're back with another 2-for-1 deal on the virtual tour series. Aren't you guys lucky? And I get to talk about, well, you guys get to watch me pay tolls for 2 hours. So doesn't that make you excited?
Well, better you than me. Or better you than Steve.
Do everything once.
Yeah. Or better you than Steve, so.
Well, yeah, that's true. If Steve is watching, yeah, I'm sure this video presentation will make him very angry. But so we have 2 full-length turnpike drives for you from the state of Texas. We have the Bush Turnpike in Dallas-Fort Worth, and then we will close the evening with the Sam Houston Tollway loop surrounding Houston Metro.
Beltway 8.
Or Beltway 8. Yeah, we'll talk about the Beltway 8 deal in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. On my YouTube front, I think I'm still working my way through I-70 in Colorado at this point. There's a few more days of that left before I transition to I-25 coverage in Colorado.
Correct. Glenwood uploaded today, West Glen.
Yeah, the Glenwood Canyon Drive got uploaded today. That's a good one. One of the great scenic drives in the interstate system, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, one of the great drives in the country.
Gribble Nation, I've been continuing to publish a couple articles a week on the Crossings of the Mississippi River series, so that's going on the blog between now and the middle of April. Doug, what do you want to say?
I just posted something this morning. I was trying to write kind of a recap of a trip I made up to Ontario over Memorial Day weekend last year, and I did I published the third part. And other than that, it's just basically, I think it's, I probably have something coming up from Oregon soon, and who knows where else. So,
okay,
because with me, you never know where I'll be next.
Yeah, you do tend to appear in the most random places sometimes, but that's okay.
But today we'll be talking about two places I actually have not been to.
Oh, wow, you'll be getting a little bit of a crash course then. All right, that's good.
Yeah.
I'd say that for half of this subject matter. I've been to Dallas, but I haven't been to Houston yet.
I've been to
going to change in a month.
I've been to other places in Dallas, just not Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Oregon.
Dallas, Pennsylvania. It's over near Wilkes-Barre. Neither of those places have the Arlington, Texas football team, though.
When that makes them better.
It does, yes.
I would like to take a moment before we move on to thank everybody who came out to the New Orleans Road Meet last weekend. Obviously, there was no show last week, but this is why. I was a little bit busy with you guys who came down to the Gulf Coast the weekend of the 17th and 18th. A lot of you came out, and it was a great time. We had 2 days of going around and seeing roads and bridges, and especially with the first day in particular, we covered a good amount of highlights related to Hurricane Katrina and its legacy that continues to endure today. The meet photo on the first day was taken in the lower 9th Ward, as you see, in front of one of the levees that was rebuilt after the storm. And there is a lift bridge in the background there that you can see kind of sticking up above the levee wall. The second day the first day focused more on the city of New Orleans itself and the East Bank suburbs of the metro. The second day we focused mainly on the West Bank side of the river. The meet photo on day 2 was taken from the West Bank Bridge Park in St. Charles Parish underneath the I-310 Luling-Destrehan Hale Boggs Memorial Bridge. And we got to see more bridges and more road-related stuff. And we had a tour on the stub of the uncompleted Lafitte-LaRose Highway down on the bayou of Lower Jefferson Parish, among other interesting stops along the way. And it was a lot of fun.
Bridge? No.
Yeah, Scott, you were not in this picture. Actually, a few people are missing from this day 2 picture.
I diverged from the tour. That's why I'm not on this picture. So, but I did take the road later.
Yeah, well, that's because you're a poopy head. So
I know. I'm proud of it.
So yeah, it was a good 2-day event. I'm glad that so many of you came out to be a part of it, and I'm glad that I put it together because it was. I mean, I think that it sounded like people really enjoyed it. So,
right.
Looking forward to next year.
And on a related note, since the 25th anniversary of the road meet is February 27th, So that was, February 27th, 1999 was the first meet. The New Orleans meet was the last meet of the first 25 years.
And I might be a little bit biased, but I think we ended on a strong note.
All right, but there will be a new chapter the next 25 years, and there's a meet next weekend happening in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, so no pressure. Don't, make sure you start off strong, please. I'm sure it's going to be fine. It's going to be great, These road meets in general are great, so...
Yeah, they're a good time.
Yeah. So if you're ever interested in checking out a road meet near you, on the aaroads.com forum, there's a section called Road Enthusiast Meetings. That's the long phrase for road meets. So you can check out events that might be happening in a city or a town near you. And
there's also a Facebook group called Road Meets.
Yeah, and Doug is posting some links in the chat for you guys to click on.
Yeah, I posted for the Atlanta meet and also for the Road Meets group.
Okay. All right, good. All right, so first order of business video-wise tonight is the President George Bush Turnpike, which is sort of the northern loop around the Dallas half of the DFW Metro in North Texas. You see it highlighted on your screen here. Our drive this evening is going to start at I-20 and run clockwise around the Metro to the Turnpike's other end at I-30 near Lake Ray Hubbard on the east side of Dallas. Altogether, the drive is about 56 miles in all, and the video length is about 45 minutes. Before we start the video, I will gently remind you that we will be back next week, and I will be back at my headquarters in New York State for next week's episode on the 2nd of March, the first episode of the month of March. We'll begin a 2-part series on the city of Houston and its surrounding metro area. We'll be talking about the freeways on that episode. The second episode in the series will focus more on the tollways. That deserves an episode in its own right. So part 1 of our Houston series will be next week's entertainment. All right. Let's see here. Let me see if I remembered to... Nope, I did not remember to mute the sound. We'll do that real quick. Alright, guys, you ready? Let's do this.
Yeah, ready as ever.
Alright. Yeah, Google Maps says that this drive is 47 minutes, but because I am the whiz, I did it in 41. So...
Hey, you just whizzed right through.
We're gonna set a speed record here, I think. So the Bush Turnpike is named for President George H.W. Bush. It was conceived in the 80s as a loop around the northern fringes of DFW. It was constructed... I don't have my notes in front of me. You guys can help me out, but I believe it was built starting in the 90s and was completed. I think the last phase of it, or the most recent phase of it, was completed somewhat recently. And there's talk of building a continuation of the Turnpike southward from its current eastern terminus at I-30 in a new phase of construction that will basically bring the Turnpike back to I-20. In the southeast part of the metro, but that appears to be a few years away from construction at this point.
Yep. So the initial construction began in 1988. The first section was segment 1 that opened in December 1998 and December 1999. Basically, it's from the North Dallas section. The second section is Garland and Richardson. That opened up in 2000. Carrollton opened up in July 2001. Segment 4, which was the President George Bush Turnpike Super Connector, which connected I-35E to the I-635 Airport extension, opened in October of 2005. Segment 5, which was in Irving, opened in 2006. Segment 6, which is the western extension through Irving and Grand Prairie, opened up in 2012. Segment 7, which is the eastern extension, that opened up in December 2011. And Segment 8, which is the next section, actually have not built that yet. Construction is expected to start in 2026. And that's in Garland and Mesquite. That would go from I-30 in Garland to I-20 in Mesquite. And speaking of Mesquite, I am hungry for barbecue now.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident that in 1988 this road was not known as the PGBT.
It probably had the 150 or 161 tag on it. In fact, 161. State Highway 161 is still somewhat loosely associated with this, as it is assigned to the discontinuous frontage roads along the highway.
Yeah, I think there are 161 shields along a part of this still. I think I think it's closer to the airport where that's the case, where you can still find those.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's in there.
But yeah, I don't think anybody refers to it as 161 anymore.
All right. Well, I know that the original plan for that corridor was supposed to be. It was planned back in the 1950s and 1960s, and it was originally supposed to be I think Loop 9 was the name it was originally given.
That's correct.
So this is the Irving to Grand Prairie section that Doug was discussing. This was the section that opened in 2012, and you notice we've already passed through one mainline toll gantry. This section was built for electronic tolling. The older sections around the northern section of the metro, they were built first in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s even. Those were still built with, there are express toll tag lanes at the toll plazas, but there were also cash lanes installed at toll booths and whatnot. So you'll notice that, you can tell that you're on an older section of the turnpike when you pass through what looks like a traditional toll booth rather than a more modern and streamlined toll gantry structure. Here is the western Bush Turnpike I-30 stack. One of my favorite interchanges in all of DFW. I think that it looks so cool it's so imposing and so cool to drive beneath, whether you are on the Turnpike main line or if you're on the I-30 main line, which is on the second level. Mm-hmm. One of multiple interchanges in Dallas-Fort Worth that is considered to be a 5-level interchange. The most famous of these, of course, being the High 5 on the north side of Dallas, where the LBJ freeway meets the North Central Expressway, US 75.
The portion between the I-30 interchange, actually, this interchange was also impacted by a tornado in 2015, December. It was an EF4 with winds up to 180 miles per hour at peak strength at about 7 o'clock on that day, 7 o'clock p.m. And the tornado lofted several cars driving on the interchange bridges and through them several yards, with some of the cars not being found in Lake Ray Hubbard within the following weeks. Multiple cars were mangled beyond recognition, and several fatalities occurred on this interchange. So this is by far, freeway interchanges are one of the least safest places to be in a tornado.
Yeah, and then this whole area of North Texas is right in the middle of Tornado Alley. It's flat. There's not a lot of tree cover. It's very difficult to find a good place to seek shelter if you're caught up in the middle of something like that. And of course, being on a freeway is not exactly a good place to be, in case a tornado is in your area. Not just because of the twister, but because of the flying debris that happens. And of course, because this area is so flat.
The flying debris is a lot of what happens, what the damage comes from. It's a cascading effect.
Right.
Yeah, I've fortunately have not witnessed a tornado yet. I think I've seen dust devils, though.
Oh, I've run into a few dust devils. I've also been 1/2 mile away from a tornado in 2014, but when my apartment was the only, the building for my apartment was the only one of 3 buildings that didn't lose power that night.
Right.
Yeah, I've had a very boring existence traveling. I've never seen a tornado live. I still have never captured an accident on camera. I still have that streak alive. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good thing, right? To some extent.
Yeah.
But
Good question.
did I not actually time out? Did I not actually introduce our panel tonight? Did I forget to do that?
I don't think we did, but then again, we've been appearing so often. We're kind of like in the woodwork, in the wallpaper.
He caught a wreck. Good one, Jason. We caught a wreck on the Queensboro Bridge.
See, I don't even remember that. What? I have to go back and look. I don't remember doing that.
Yep.
But anyway,
I have witnessed thunder snow during a drive, though.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I've witnessed that too. Yeah, not while I was driving, but yeah, I've been home when I've seen lightning while in the middle of a snowstorm, and yeah, I can understand why Jim Cantori likes to go bananas every time that happens, because it is a pretty wild phenomenon.
It's a rare thing. It's a rare thing too.
So yeah, who the hell's on the panel today? It's Doug and it's Scott. You guys know them. You probably recognize their voices and all that. They're on practically every week now. Well, not quite, but
seems like it.
Right. Especially in the winter time when we're doing shows once a week. It's hard to. It's easy to lose track.
Right. Well, that's why, since I did not go to New Orleans, I had planned basically a winter check off the list item last weekend, so I would not have what's we're looking for, a conflict.
Mm.
I took the Amtrak through the Adirondacks.
Oh, all right.
Up to Plattsburgh. That was different. Nice change of pace.
Now, was that the which line?
Amtrak. It's the Amtrak Adirondacks. It's the one that goes up to Montreal.
Okay, so it's not.
I did
because originally it was the Montrealer, right?
Something like that. I did not actually go all the way. I just went to Plattsburgh and back. Montrealer was the let's see.
I think that was the older one that got discontinued, and then
right, it was discontinued in 1995, and then got replaced by the Vermonter.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. Okay.
Right, which goes up to St. Albans, and then the Adirondacks, the one that goes, basically on the New York side.
Okay.
You may not have noticed in the video as it passed through, but the PGBT is not entirely toll road. The western portion of it is not tolled as full toll road here, but you can see about right here where it says toll road begins, and now you're seeing the first toll booth that he's about to go through. And the big T's, the toll tag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the big T is North Texas Turnpike Authority.
That is correct. They run the show here.
They run the show in North Texas, just like Hectra runs the show in Houston.
Right. And it's not compatible with your Easy Pass.
No, Texas is not interoperable with Easy Pass. Not yet, anyway.
It is not. It is interoperable with Kansas, Oklahoma, and for portions of Texas are also interoperable with SunPass.
Yeah, so in Texas, NTTA tags are interoperable with Texas Tag, but not with Hectra's Easy Tag. I think I have that right, don't I?
Yeah, they're the stubborn ones.
Yeah, because Houston is weird like that. We'll be talking about toll tags and all that as we go throughout the program.
Right.
But yeah, so you saw how we passed through a toll booth, a standard-looking toll booth back there. This is one of the older sections of the turnpike, one of the first ones to open. We passed through the 183 and the 114 interchanges, and we're about to pass the LBJ 635 interchange here, as we are now on the northwest side of Dallas. We started kind of toward the west-southwest of Dallas at the start of the video, so we're gradually working our way clockwise. Yeah, I can't, on the subject of tolls and toll tags, I can't wait to see what my SunPass bill is going to be. Because I started, because as you guys know, one of the objectives I had on this trip was to redocument pretty much everything in Central Florida. So that was obviously going to require paying a lot of tolls. So that's kind of what I've been doing here when I've been in Florida. So
I was very surprised that you did not use your Easy Pass.
Yeah, the Easy Pass interoperability with Florida is somewhat of a recent development.
Yeah, that's true. It is, but as of this year, all of Orlando pretty much is interoperable with Easy Pass.
Yeah, I think Orlando area was first. I think the Central Florida Expressway Authority was the first agency to accept Easy Pass.
Mm-hmm.
But it was weird because the Florida Turnpike Enterprise, or the FTE, was not. And there are sections of the tolling system in Orlando that are FTE and not Central Florida.
That is true.
It created this weird situation where some of the toll roads were Easy Pass and some weren't. So, but that finally got ironed out recently. Now everybody accepts Easy Pass in Florida. But I just kind of...
There was a question in the chat about... there was a question in the chat about how much does it cost to drive the entire toll road?
The Bush Turnpike, there are several mainline tolling points. So I would imagine it's not cheap.
No, it's not.
But that's why we have the internet.
I did a researching because I'm doing the toll roads and
when I go online, I'm not seeing the that easily. Well, it does tell me that the North Texas Toll Agency website will be basically down tomorrow morning between 12:30 and 4:30 for their online customer service system will be offline for maintenance.
Oh, that's too bad.
So I can go and pay my bill, which I obviously don't have because don't have an account with them. They use Zip. You can pay with Zipcash, apparently. They don't make it easy to find this information.
That's another NTTA thing. If you're looking for approximate cost of the entire road, it's going to be probably $11 to $12 by 2024 funding. I did the research because I plan on doing the Dallas toll roads in the second week of April after the eclipse.
All right. Although on the NTTA website, it does have a question of how many calls did NTTA receive for its free roadside safety services in 2023. So unlike the Thruway New York, the NTTA does provide free roadside assistance. And let's see, I can guess between 55,697, 43,386, 32,948, and 22,492. They are very random numbers. I'm going to go with the 43,386. Let me see if that's right.
I'm going to say the answer is other, 69.
Nice. It is 55,697 calls in 2023.
There were 55,000 calls. How many of them were answered?
How
many of them?
They were just received.
How many of them?
I don't know how many were answered, but
how many of them went to voicemail?
The rest of them.
Yeah, not nice.
So we just went past the 35E stack interchange. We have another question here. Does my Pike Pass, which is Oklahoma's toll tag, does that work with all Texas toll roads, and are all toll roads open to semis? The first question, I believe the answer is yes.
I'm going to say yes as well, based on the fact that TX tag is interoperable with Harris County and OK roads, and so that pretty much makes it easy on that one. As far as trucks, I cannot say yes or no on that one. I would say that there's a good number of them that are, but I wouldn't say 100%. I can't trust that.
I'm trying to think of one that isn't. Obviously, this turnpike is. I can't think of anything off the top of my head as far as a toll road in Texas that would not be open to a semi truck. I mean, the Dallas North.
Okay, I'm looking at a fact sheet here that NTTA threw up. NTTA prohibits oversized and overweight vehicles from using the toll roads except by permit. It didn't say anything about standard semi trucks, though.
Yeah, like the one that I can think of in Dallas where you wouldn't see a lot of truck traffic would be the Dallas North Tollway. But that's not... Trucks are allowed to use that, though.
Right. And there is a... like with pretty much all the rest of the tolling systems, trucks have to pay a ton more because of the number of axles and the amount of weight that they're carrying.
Yeah. Well, that's why a lot of trucks don't like to use the toll roads, even though they are open to them.
Right.
Yep.
They're kind of encouraged by their stuff. If they're part of a greater company, they're probably discouraged from using the toll roads. If they're owner-operators, they're probably not going to have that in their budget.
Now, one thing that I should mention as far as tolling is concerned with related to trucks is that a lot of express toll lanes and a lot of those systems are not open to trucks. It depends on the state and it depends on the location. Like, for instance, here in Florida, the I-4 Ultimate lanes are not open to trucks.
Right.
And that's kind of, I think the main motivation there is to keep those lanes free-flowing. You know, because you don't want a lot of heavy trucks in there, like, bottling up traffic. I think that's part of it.
The LBJ Express lanes, I have to look that up, but I would imagine that those are not going to be ever open to trucks for the same reason.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know about the LBJ. Yeah, because I don't remember. I drove that a few times over a year ago, and I don't remember seeing trucks in there. But the toll rates on the LBJ are much higher than the other toll roads in the area. So that's another way to discourage commercial traffic from using them, even if it's legal. You know.
In general, those rates, like the ones in Northern Virginia, are increased based on traffic use.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? So you wouldn't during peak times you wouldn't come across a lot of commercial traffic in those lanes anyway.
No.
Speaking of toll roads, here is the Dallas North Tollway, which is actually currently being extended north of Frisco. There's a new extension north of US 380 that's under construction at this time. Actually, where we are right now at the Turnpike and North Tollway interchange is not far from the city of Frisco, which is where the Dallas Cowboys, it's their practice facility, and they've also got their own city, basically, that was developed right around that practice facility.
The National Video Game Museum is in Frisco as well.
Okay. So Dallas Cowboys fans can go to the video game museum and simulate Madden 24 and the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl in that video game, because that's as close as they're ever going to get to a real Lombardi trophy.
Yeah, I'm not going to put my money on the Arlington, Texas football team.
Not in real life, anyway.
But in Frisco, you also have apparently you have the Dude Perfect world headquarters.
We're still just checking to see if they all still them boys.
Yes.
Well, yeah. You always have to check in, around the second weekend of January. Just to see,
If they're still them boys.
Chances are they're not by then.
Correct.
Yep. Well, Scott, I know that result made you especially happy. Being the Wisconsinner that you are.
Well, just kind of an off-topic conversation on that one, but we'll save that for a minute. But the Packers beating the Cowboys, I thought was kind of a surprise, and I thought the Cowboys folded more than the Packers were able to win.
As a Bills fan who just never has really cared for the Cowboys much, I was happy with that result.
Regardless, I can understand.
There was a stat that I saw that was just crazy to me, but I had to fact check it, and it's true that the Green Bay Packers have won more postseason games at AT&T Stadium than the Dallas Cowboys.
Good.
That is true.
I am all in favor.
Including one Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Super Bowl counts. Yep.
Yeah. The one that played in late 90s, the one they played in the 2000s against the Steelers.
That's right. Yeah.
The Allegheny County, Pennsylvania football team. My apologies.
That's right. Yep. Jason wants to know, does that cover the Louisiana 1 Expressway? So Louisiana is another one of these states, as we jump back to toll tag compatibility for a second. Louisiana is not compatible with any other state. So Louisiana does have a toll tag called Go Pass, spelled Geaux. But that pass is I think that one only works on the Gateway to the Gulf Expressway, the Highway 1 bridge.
It also works on the Lake Pontchartrain Expressway, and will be working on the Beltways Bridge, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to accept on the Beltways Bridge, but I guess they would accept that. That would make sense. See that the Causeway has its own toll transponder, from what I understand, but I don't know if it's compatible with the LA1 toll system.
Jason just confirmed my statement.
Oh, they do accept Go Pass. Okay. Yeah, because for some reason I
They're
thought
not like Michigan, where they have their own passes for each bridge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Mackinac Bridge has the Mac Pass and the the Blue Water
the Ambassador Bridge has its Moron Pass. No, just kidding.
In Nova Scotia, they have the E-Pass.
Not to be confused with the other E-Pass, which is the Central Florida Expressway system.
Right. I mean, it's like with the Easy Pass and iPass, even though they work together, it's like, why is iPass still named iPass when everybody else was forced to change the name to Easy Pass? Well, you know why now, somewhat. Well, it's kind of unrelated. iPass, the Illinois agency, chose in the late months of last year to transition to stickers.
Yep.
So they're technically the first of the original consortium to transition to stickers for their toll tags now.
And speaking of MacPass from earlier, Nova Scotia also has the MacPass. The E-Pass is for the Quebecoid Highway, which is 104, and then the MacPass is for the Halifax bridges.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So if you make it out to the Maritimes sometime, Dan, you'll have to get a bunch of transponders.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be: are they compatible with one another?
I have no idea.
Yeah, well, that's something to research some other time. But
there was another clarification: the Pontchartrain Causeway does not accept GoPass.
Yeah, see, I thought that was the case, that the Causeway did its own thing.
So, okay, we got another Michigan.
Yeah, Louisiana is stupid as far as, tolling, and not necessarily tolling, but lack of interoperability within the state, and then no interoperability out of state.
Right, okay. I'm so confused.
So it's
We'll leave that one for a Louisiana webinar, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, Jason is going to get to the bottom of that for us. He's our national Louisiana correspondent.
Yeah.
Reporting live from Gretna, Louisiana, I'm Jason.
No worries. Back to this. So where are we now?
So we passed the US 75 North Central Expressway interchange. So now we are towards the northeast of the metro. As we continue to turn, now we're sort of starting to turn to the south.
And I did notice it was starting as 2 lanes when we were on the west side, and up to 4 lanes. Bunch of auxiliary lanes along the way.
Yeah, in general, like most of the turnpike has 4 lanes each direction. It does narrow down to 3 at each end, but generally you'll have 4 lanes of through traffic.
Right.
Yes, Michigan has roads.
I've been on them.
I've been on a couple of them.
Yeah.
Whether they are paved or not is another story.
Yeah.
See, what we consider, or I guess, do we consider them to be paved by legal definition? I don't know. That depends.
It depends on how you compare them. If you compare them to, say, this turnpike, for example, they're probably not paved. But if you compare them to the Alaska or Klondike Highway, they're definitely paved.
Oh my God! Yeah, I will gladly take a drive on a Michigan highway before I take another drive on the Alaska Highway.
You haven't taken one yet. Oh wait, I'm sorry, the Alaska portion.
Well, the Alaska side of it, yeah.
Yeah. I did both sides.
Yeah. Although I will give Michigan credit, they have been working a lot on their freeways the last 10 years, probably. Like there's been a ton of construction across the state. So
the thing about Michigan is that their freeway network is dense enough that they can close an entire freeway and not disrupt traffic.
Right, that's what happened. Last time I was in Detroit was in October of last year, and that's what happened. Basically, 94 was closed south of 696, so I just took a bunch of other roads to get back to where I needed to be. So.
Yeah, I've done it with 996 as well, and so you had M10 that was following alongside them, and I-75. So
right.
It's like a freeway street grid.
Yeah, they have a redundancy system, which I think is important.
Well,
unlike other cities.
Yeah, I mean it is the Motor City, so I would expect nothing less.
Yeah, I went to the last time I went? I went to the Henry Ford Museum, which basically has all sorts of things about motors
and cars.
I think it's badass that a lot of the freeways within the city limit of Detroit have speed limits as high as 70.
Oh,
yeah, and everyone's driving faster than that.
The prevailing speed of traffic is often that high. Yeah. The only thing that will slow traffic down in Detroit really is either traffic or curbs.
Yeah.
Or construction.
Yeah.
That does slow things down.
Yeah, I mean, it is not uncommon these days for there to be a full freeway shutdown over a weekend or something like that, especially with the amount of work that's going on I-94 downtown.
Yeah.
But
I-94 was like the ancient freeway of Detroit for quite some time.
And we did a webinar on Detroit, 3 years ago now? Something like that.
Something like that, and a I-75 live drive, or virtual tour, rather.
We did. God, it feels
which
3 years ago feels like forever ago now.
Yeah, so I rewatched it one time, but I muted the sound and played an Eminem CD in its place, and it just flowed very well together.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be. Yeah. Well, there's going to be a lot more new content coming. New virtual tour stuff, new webinar material has been assembled. We've never done an episode that was Florida-centric. And we've only really started to do Texas area stuff.
Right.
And we hadn't done Louisiana until this past winter. So there are a lot of parts of the country that we really haven't covered that much.
Or even other countries.
Well, yeah, north of the border we haven't done one either.
Yeah, I've been talking. Basically, I've been trying to say like, hey, check out Ottawa sometime, things like that. So
you are a big fan of Ottawa.
Big fan of Ottawa. Big fan of the Maritimes as well. Actually, just a big fan of Canada in general.
Yeah,
that's a bucket list item, Doug, that I still have to get. I mean, getting Western Canada last year was a great accomplishment in my opinion, and I thought it was well worth it.
That's something I'm hoping to do in June.
Yeah. Just to kind of recap what I did, June, after a road meet, I drove up to Winnipeg, drove over to Regina, and then back down into the U.S. from there.
Fun.
Later on, as part of the Alaska trip, I flew to Calgary, drove up to Edmonton, drove up the Alaska Highway into the state, came down the Cassiar Highway in British Columbia, and then went across to Calgary from Kamloops.
Yeah, I'm finding with when I'm looking at things, it's actually going to be cheaper for me to fly to Edmonton and just base everything from Edmonton.
But yeah, I think you have to connect somewhere. I had to connect somewhere.
I have to. Well, there's a direct flight from Boston to Edmonton.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a day trip for you.
Yeah, but coming back, it's because if I do a red eye, I'd have to basically have a layover in Atlanta.
Yes, the great layover in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, flights are more limited between countries for obvious reasons, and I was able to get daytime flights both ways. albeit they were both delayed 2 hours each way.
Right.
But that's why I chose Calgary, was because of the ease of entry into one of the bigger major airports that Canada serves. That serves Canada.
Right. And the other thing too is with some of the airports in Canada, you can pre-clear U.S. customs in Canada.
Yeah, Calgary is one.
Calgary's one, Vancouver, Edmonton,
Toronto.
Winnipeg, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Halifax.
Yeah.
You can also pre-clear U.S. customs if you are flying to the U.S. from Ireland, Aruba, and the United Arab Emirates, I believe.
Abu Dhabi, to be experienced.
Yes. Abu Dhabi, that's where you mail cute kittens to.
Oh God!
That's actually that's actually the first time I heard of Abu Dhabi when I was a kid, was watching Garfield.
I think that was my first reference for Abu Dhabi too. Yeah.
Because that's where he always wanted to mail Normal, was to Abu Dhabi.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yeah, we are driving through a school zone, aren't we, Dan?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The speed limit is 70. That's one thing I noticed when I was driving down, was there were lots of enforcement of school zones, and when it was active, they had cops at every end of the school zone speed limits.
Oh yeah, yeah, they do that.
It was just they're protective.
Yeah, they do that a lot in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do it a lot in Mississippi. They do it a lot in Louisiana.
And if you've liked what you've seen so far, instead of mailing your pet to Abu Dhabi, you can like the video.
Like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, and comment.
Yeah,
Ding.
hit the subscribe button. We've recently passed 20,000 subscribers on the channel, so
Woohoo!
I do want to. Yeah, that's worth celebrating, right? So I do want to thank everybody who has been a part of my journey these last 13, 14 years. And I'm looking forward to whatever it is that is lying in wait for the future.
And speaking of lying in wait for the future, also good things like the PGBT must come to an end.
Yep, we're crossing a causeway that on part of one of the arms of Lake Ray Hubbard. And the turnpike reaches its eastern terminus here at Interstate 30. As we mentioned at the start of the drive, there is a plan in the future to continue the turnpike south from here to a new interchange at I-20 near Mesquite. Construction on that has yet to begin as of the recording of this video.
All right. Should be starting in 2026, if I'm reading my source correct. So
we might need to do a Dallas road meet in like 2028 or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're into seeing construction.
Oh,
That's kind of an interesting question, right? Like, what do you prefer to see at a road meet? Do you want to see a road that's just been opened, or do you want to see something that's under construction? And I think there's a pretty even split. I don't think there's a right answer to the question, but it is interesting that you get a more or less an even divide as far as opinion goes for that
right. Question. Like I tend to, when there's no right or wrong answer to that either, which is nice. I actually prefer seeing the roads, under construction, because sometimes you might get a different view than if it's, just been opened. But I also like seeing just kind of like old things, abandoned things, offbeat things during road meets, which I know that the last few road meets I've had, it's just been a lot of kind of, other things you might overlook, but were very cool to see.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, as we take a couple minutes here to catch our breaths. That's one of the reasons why I try to plan my meets in such a way that you have a mix of the stuff that's sort of like the greatest hits, and then you also have stuff that's off the beaten path, because I want to try to appeal to people who go to meets regularly, but I also want to appeal to people who have never been to a meet before and want to see the stuff that's the easy stuff, you know. So finding a balance between those,
or they may have been to a meet, but yeah, or they may have been to a meet but never to that city.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what.
New Orleans is a classic case.
Yeah, I think the best meets are the ones that find a good balance between those two.
Right.
So, anyway, enough about me and my opinions on road meets. Yeah, I do have a Spreadshirt page that you can find. It's on the what do you call it? It's on the channel homepage. There's a link to it there. I actually haven't updated that in forever, but it is still there, and it is still something you can find. Actually, that reminds me, I need to order a new 504 Road Trips hoodie, because mine is like not legible anymore. So I saw Jason wearing the one in New Orleans, and he was looking pretty snazzy. I'm like, man, I got to get myself another one of those. We want to roll into the next one? You guys good, or?
Yeah.
Roll on.
All right. So next up is the Sam Houston Tollway / Sam Houston Parkway / Beltway 8.
Sort of.
The loop around
on a nice purple county route shield.
Yeah, I do like how Hectra designed their shield. That's one thing I like about them. So the Sam Houston is the second loop around the metro, not including the downtown loop. The 610 loop is the first one, and then Beltway 8 is the second loop around the outer part of Harris County. And we will start down at the southern I-45 tollway interchange and work clockwise around from that. So that our starting point will be basically at the southeast corner of the loop, and we'll work gradually clockwise around until we're back there after about an hour and 10 minutes drive. For latecomers who missed the opening of our show, again, our next program next week, which will be the first program that I am doing from my house in quite a while, will be the first of a two-part series on the freeway and tollway system of Houston. So looking forward to that, and hope you can join us for that. All right. Yeah, let's get this fired up here. Yeah, so I did 88 miles in 69 minutes. Nice.
Nice.
All right, here we go. As I said, this is the southern tollway I-45 interchange. That's first up, and here we go. Sam Houston Tollway was planned as far back as the 1960s. It was very quickly apparent that not only would the 610 be insufficient, but because of the rapid suburban sprawl far out from downtown Houston and far away from the 610 loop even, that there was going to be a need for a second loop encircling Greater Houston. And this loop was originally envisioned as a freeway, similar to what happened with the 610. Funding, however, became an issue for the construction of this highway. It was not included in any proposed amendments to the United States Interstate Highway System. So that meant that it fell on the state of Texas and also Harris County to find funding for its construction. This was one of the single most significant factors in the creation of the Harris County Toll Road Authority in the early 1980s. This agency was created to help fund and maintain the construction of a toll road system within Greater Houston. The first two highways to see construction and operation under HECTRA were the Sam Houston Tollway and also the Hardy Toll Road on the north side of Houston. Under HECTRA's control, parts of the tollway were constructed beginning in the 1980s. It wasn't until the 2010s, I think, that the final link in the tollway, I believe on the northeast side of the metro, was completed. Again, this is going to be another one of these toll roads where you see the difference between older sections and newer sections. You're going to pass through what appears to be a pretty standard-looking toll booth with express easy tag lanes, and then you're going to pass through later on in the program what appear to be modern-looking toll gantries. And this, of course, is again due to the timing of the construction of parts of this loop. You'll be able to tell what the more recent additions to the system are.
The thing, another tidbit about toll tags, the easy tag is the only tag that gets a discount on Harris County Toll Road Authority roads. Anything else, TX tag, toll tag, K tag, Pike Pass, has to pay the cash rate, unfortunately. Read up about that with my research, my trip coming up, that that's something that they have there, where the Harris County Toll Road Authority is one of the most stubborn agencies as far as interoperability. Sun Pass was recently accepted as a interoperability in a large portion of Texas. That portion of Texas includes 0% of Houston.
Yeah, HECTRA has always been very reluctant to partner and make or combine their forces with the rest of the state of Texas.
As you mentioned earlier, they're compatible with TX tag, not toll tag.
Right.
You mentioned about Beltway 8 versus the Sam Houston Tollway.
Yeah, can we talk about
on that one?
Yeah, let's talk about Beltway 8 for a second.
It is a state highway maintained by TXDOT, that runs mostly along the frontage roads. Keep this in mind, it's running along the frontage roads of the tollway, only using the main lanes when those main lanes are free sections, meaning between I-45 and I-69/US 59, nice, on the east side, which crosses the Houston Ship Channel, and between US 90 and I-10. Elsewhere where the toll road is owning that and charging tolls, Beltway 8 is on the frontage roads.
Yeah, so it's a matter of maintenance jurisdiction, right? So the frontage roads are TXDOT and the main lanes are HECTRA. You will see, there are sections of the tollway that are not tolled and are free to use, and those you will see Beltway 8 signs along the main line. And we'll point those out when we see them, especially along the northern side of the loop. But here is our first mainline toll booth of the trip. You'll notice that you have signs for easy tag only, and then you have on the right hand side there's a sign that says non-tag traffic. I think what that means is because the HECTRA went cashless, or mostly cashless, I think. That's just kind of referring to non-compatible toll tags and also toll by plate options. Because I think the way that they do it here is kind of strange in that they don't direct all of the cashless through the same set of gantries. They kind of split it out. You know, like toll by plate has to go off to the side, which I think is a little strange.
Yeah,
I haven't
I
gotten
just
to the
put it up
bottom of
right
why
now
that
for
is,
the tag agreement. Use of dedicated easy tag lanes by a non-easy tag account holder or a customer whose easy tag is not in good standing violates state law and will result in a violation.
See, I didn't know that. Is that a thing? I wasn't aware of there being a law in the books about that.
Drivers can use the toll tag on all roads in Texas and Austin, Houston. All road toll roads designated with an easy tag or TX tag will also accept your toll tag. Possibly. There's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo that we have to jump through this one, and we only have an hour.
Well, we don't have a we don't have a legal correspondent to consult with on this, but I've only ever gone through the tag lanes when I've driven through Houston, and I've never encountered an issue. So I don't know. I mean, I can see why it would be an issue if you went through the tag only lanes without a tag.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the play by plate that Dallas does, it seems.
Yeah.
Or they just separated everything. They really to the point of the fact that Hectra is really a how do I say it? I don't want to say his name. I don't want to say the owner of X's name online here.
I know, you might get the unofficial ban hammer.
I'm not on X's name anyway.
Right.
And I'm just looking right here, and you got a nice little bridge along this interchange. I'm assuming this is with 6959.
This is 288.
Yeah.
Which was recently rebuilt within the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I've actually been through this interchange before the reconstruction and after it. And it's like night and day. There didn't used to be...
And as mentioned with... this is classic Texas, where you have these gargantuan interchanges with long approach ramps.
Well, you know what they say, everything's bigger in Texas.
Exactly, Doug.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, we'll talk about this during the Houston webinars, but some of the most expensive toll express lanes in America are on the 288 express setup. Okay. I almost had to take out a second mortgage to drive them once.
They were in the hundreds of dollars?
It felt like it. It was kind of like sticker shock when you saw the price at the top when you were passing the sign. You were like, Jesus, I just spent like $16 to go like 7 miles. Holy!
That sounds even more pricey than the 407.
It's up there. I would not be surprised if it was a comparable rate per mile.
And here I thought I-66 and the 395 and the Beltway Express, Capital Beltway Express lanes were expensive and wanted to avoid them.
Yeah, that's actually another one that I have not yet driven. Not since it was put into service.
Actually, you might not be correct on that one. You may have driven I-66 off-peak.
Well, I've been on 66, but it was before they did the reconstruction.
Right, and the same with me. I think the last time I was on 66 inside the Beltway was in 2009.
Yeah, I was on there in 2022, but I was very careful to avoid being tolled.
Well, while certain people in the live chat are trying to play matchmaker for me, which I appreciate, thank you. We passed. Let me see here. We passed. I mean, I appreciate it, but like Valentine's Day was like 10 days ago, so you kind of missed it a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, today is curling day in Canada, so
today's what?
Curling day in Canada.
Oh,
sweep them.
Yes, hurry hard.
But yeah, as far as Valentine's Day, I'm really sad for you.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Famous last words. It is what it is.
Hey,
I want to circle back to that curling thing. So, is that like a national? It's not a holiday, but it's like a.
It's not a national. It's not a national holiday, but it's one of those things. It's the in Canada, they have like the hockey day in Canada. It's like they have hockey games on TV all day, and they make a big to do with it. Curling day in Canada, basically, it's the same thing where basically they just, they use it as a day to promote curling. Some of the Canadian curling championships are going on around this time, like the Scotties, which is the Canadian Women's Championship, and the Brier, which is the Canadian Men's Curling Championship.
The Scotties?
The Scotties, yes. It's named after the Scotties. It's the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. It's named after the bath tissue company.
Oh.
That's right.
And then the
trophy is a roll of toilet paper.
It's called the Scotties.
That sounds like
sounds like a
shitty situation.
I have actually went to see the Scotties and the Brier in person. And the Scotties, when it was in St. Catharines, Ontario in 2017, I went to see that. And the Brier was in Kingston, Ontario in end of February, beginning of March 2020. I actually saw it on a leap day in 2020, just before the world shut down. So I made it to Canada in 2020.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to get a little history on the number 8 as far as loops in Texas. Beltway 8 isn't the first iteration of a loop 8. There was one that was previously designated for a State Highway 8 loop, but that was canceled. That was back in the 1930s, 1940s, around Beaumont, running from US 59, which is later used as 96, at Granite Street via Gulf Street, North Street, and 4th Street to US 90 as such. That route was canceled in 1944. Now, on this, as Houston has its fast population growth, had to put second beltway, as you said before, the plan for the state highway designation here was to use the Loop 8 number. However, because of the proposed route, they had referred to the known as the Elder Belt, and Harris County used the similar nomenclature for the same width of the route. The designation was changed to Beltway on the 31st of July, 1969. It is the only state highway loop bearing the name Beltway. So that answers a question that we had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. As far as I know, there's no significance to the number 8 as far as this loop is concerned.
Except it has 2 loops.
Yeah. I think it was more of a matter of there was a number that was available.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because my mind immediately went to Charlotte Loop 4, which is numbered such because it's 4 miles outside of downtown or something like that. It's like a loop with a 4-mile radius, so that's why they chose the number 4. I wasn't sure if there was something similar here with Beltway 8 being an 8-mile radius or something like that from something, but I don't think that works if you put it on the map. But
no, L&M did not move to Houston because of Beltway 8. We didn't move at all. 8 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is the only state highway with the prefix of Beltway. I mean, it would make sense for it to be like Beltway 1, for instance. But
right.
Like there's a NASA 1, like south of Houston.
Yes.
But yeah, so I did kind of find the selection of the number interesting, and I haven't been able to find a reason for why that number was chosen. But anyway, we have another week until the Houston webinar, so we might yet make a discovery on that.
Yeah, this is Texas.
Well, Texas, yeah, I mean it is Texas, so they just make shit up as they go. But
right.
With no doubt.
Yeah. So here is the Southwestern Tollway US 59 interchange.
Also known as
the nice way.
The nice way.
Well played, Doug. The nice way. Signage for I-69. Of course, I-69 is a complete overlap of the original US 59 freeway across Houston Metro. So there are parts of the Metro where you will not see I-69 signs. You will just see US 59.
Correct.
Some of the signage for the interstate is, in some parts of the Metro, is much clearer than it is in others. But understand that if you come across an interchange that it just says US 59, there is an understanding there that it is also an overlap with the interstate. It just may not always be signed depending on where you are.
Yeah, technically I-69 is official throughout the metro area of Houston. I will not take too much time to look up the endpoints, but they are out just outside I know one of them ends in Cleveland. No, not that Cleveland. And the other one ends southwest some point. I don't remember what this town is.
Yeah, so the exit numbers on I-69, or the exit numbers reflect I-69 mileage on that highway, and we'll talk more about this next week, but the mile zero point for the exit numbering system is actually in Victoria, Texas. That is where the I-69 main line is expected to diverge into I-69 E, C, and W. Which then the three of those have their own exit numbering convention. So that is the logic behind the numbering system.
So much for avoiding suffix values.
All right.
Yeah, well, I think because they consider all three, the E, C, and W, to be their own individual mainline routes that have a common northern terminus. Which is also the southern terminus of the I-69 proper, if you will. It's confusing. It's kind of silly what they're doing down there, but we'll touch on that next week. Coming up on the West Park Tollway, as we're now in the western side of Houston Metro, this is one of the heavier trafficked sections of the tollway. The other section that gets a lot of use is the free section on the north side of the metro, which we'll come to in a little while. But this is right up there with as far as traffic counts are concerned. By the way, we'll talk about this in the Tollways webinar in a couple of weeks, but the West Park is my favorite tollway in all of Houston. So if you're arranging a trivia night that's like Roadway Whiz centric, that's a good trivia question. What is Dan's favorite tollway in Houston Metro?
The Harvey Toll Road.
Well, you wouldn't make it very far on trivia night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's okay, Scott. I would still, if I was a team captain, I would still pick you first, Scott. It's okay.
Do I even have a favorite tollway? That is a good question.
Well, you're like a lot of road geeks in that you like to avoid them.
I kind of just like back roads.
Well, yeah, for you, like if you're driving from the Albany area out to like Syracuse or Rochester, I know you like to take, US 20 or
5S.
5S is another one, yeah. So you have plenty of free alternatives.
The way I look at it, Dan, if you've already taken a road once, why take it again?
Well, if you're going to the same destination, like some places, I have family, in other parts of New York State, so I'm going to those places multiple times, and sometimes it's easier to take the same way more than once.
If you're time strapped, yes, you take the nut route that's the fastest. If you're going to some place that you're pretty much going regularly, whatever. I think you probably have taken the other roads as well, so you just take the easiest route. If you're a road geek that's trying to check out the rest of the stuff, I've already taken I-55 through Mississippi, so I took US 61 instead.
Yeah, you got a lot of new mileage out of that New Orleans trip.
I certainly did.
Yeah.
Captured one gap through I-10, which included the Gulfport, Biloxi area. So I did turn onto 110 and take that down. So I was able to drive on water.
Yes. And you got to clinch one of the interstates one of the only active drawbridges on the interstate system.
One of the few, yes.
Yep.
I did one drawbridge elsewhere before, the Woodrow Wilson Bridge.
Right.
And then I got I-22's remaining portions as well. And I can say now, I can officially say that I have driven on I-59 finally.
Well, my apologies.
Yeah, that was not something that was worth doing again in that area, that's for sure.
Yeah, there ain't much on 59 in general.
No.
I mean, Birmingham's okay, but
otherwise it's tree. Look, a bridge! Tree.
I've been on I-59 in Georgia.
Which is probably, I know, it's easily the most scenic part of the interstate.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I have to say that I-22, I thought had 6 lanes for longer than I thought it should have. The southeast portion in Alabama goes a long ways, it's 6 lane, but the amount of traffic on the road was just, you can fit that on 4 lanes easily.
Yeah, that's true. I-22 is really overbuilt as you go west from Birmingham. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of iconic interchanges, I-10 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Western I-10 stack. You'll notice how the control city for Tollway North is Intercontinental Airport.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the only spots in the Tollway where a control city is listed. Because usually the pull-through sign just says Sam Houston Tollway or something like that.
Well, it's going around in circles. You don't want to expect a control city on
that. Well, yeah. I mean, it is a circle, so you'll always end up back where you started.
Exactly.
That's the advantage of circular highways.
I got to give you a link offline of that. I know there's a local Texas road geek who's not as active now, did a full-on, albeit time-lapse drive of every ramp and frontage road of it. Similar to Bucky's gym.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the next major interchange upcoming is US 290. So since we're going to be coming up on Intercontinental Airport here in a second, it should be clarified that there are 2 major airports in the Houston Metro. Intercontinental.
And the other one's a hobby airport.
Yeah, it's not. It isn't just an airport for fun. It is a real airport. Hobby Airport is located a few miles south of Houston. That was the original municipal airport, and then Intercontinental was built relatively recently.
Yeah.
And that's on the northern fringe of the metro.
Intercontinental is a United hub. United inherited that hub and kept it after they bought Continental.
I can say that I've flown out of both Houston airports. Intercontinental was several years ago, and last winter in 2023, I did fly into Hobby Airport because I was on a Southwest flight.
My condolences.
Yeah, so that was a different experience.
Although I say the only two low cost airlines I've flown was JetBlue and Frontier. Frontier at the time that I flew had a direct flight from Milwaukee to Phoenix, as Milwaukee was a minor hub of Frontier.
Yeah, Southwest I have flown a number of times because they've long have had a number of flights from Albany that have worked well for me for flying out west.
Yeah, it is easy to get a flight to Chicago from Albany. I have discovered that.
Yes, although they are renovating the airport apparently.
In Albany?
Well,
yeah.
Which airport in Chicago? That's the question. Midway or O'Hare?
Well, both.
Depends on the airline.
Yeah, exactly. If you're flying Southwest or at a low cost, you're going to be in the Midway.
Yeah.
Although either way, if you're flying out of Albany, it's not difficult to get to Chicago, and then from there you can go literally anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or similarly, like what I've done, and especially recently, is I've ended up on the Albany to Detroit route, and that's another situation where you can go anywhere from Detroit.
Yeah, this Delta is a Detroit hub.
Yeah, I've taken that Delta flight a few times. Yeah.
I've done direct. My flight to Hawaii was a direct flight from Minneapolis, and I did not connect. I just drove up to Minneapolis and parked there.
Yes, I do need to give Laura a shout out for that BWI to Houston flight. And she was on a Southwest flight from BWI to New Orleans not long ago.
How's that, huh?
Yeah.
I think of all the times I've flown Southwest, I've only connected at BWI once. It's always seemed to be Midway. Or Denver.
See, I'm not a fan. Personally, I'm not a fan of the low-cost airlines. But don't ask me why. It's just a preference.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, that doesn't mean that I have never flown low-cost airlines. I felt that there were two instances where it worked out well. I mean, the JetBlue one that I flown was from O'Hare to Boston Logan.
Yeah.
Where AJ Providence meet. And the Frontier, like I said, was the perfect one for going from Milwaukee to Phoenix.
Right.
But yeah, if they're going to be able to give me the most efficient scheduling situation, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I'll take it. But no, socialist.
Yeah, for me, it's a mix of price and schedule.
Right. Yeah. Like if there's something that comes up that's like ultra convenient for what I'm looking for, then I will pay a little extra for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind doing that. Although, I mean, it depends on the individual and what they're looking for. As far as the quote-unquote low-cost airlines are concerned, I'm more of a JetBlue fan than Southwest. But that's, I think that's personal preference.
Right.
Yeah, really, I have not had enough experience with them to really make a preference on that. I have not learned that. The general thing I have is I am very anti-connector flight. I will gladly drive to Chicago and fly out of O'Hare to avoid a connector flight. And that's within 3 hours drive for me. So I'm in a perfect situation there.
I just want to take a second to the conversation and the free entertainment out of the live chat this evening, especially from certain members of the Peanut Gallery. I miss you, Laura, and I look forward to having you back on the program at some point in the future. I know you've been busy with other things lately. That's why you haven't made an appearance recently.
Oh, please do. Give a break.
Well, you know what? She graduated to the big leagues. She was doing programs on my channel, but now she's doing other stuff that's way more interesting and way more important. So she's got her hands full with that. But she'll be back at some point. Don't worry.
Exactly.
Where are we here? Okay, we're at the
North Gessner Road.
Yeah, here we are. 249. So we're
in the electronic only portion of the toll road.
Right.
Yeah, we'll talk about the 249 corridor when we talk about the tollways in a couple of weeks, but there's all sorts of jurisdictional nonsense going on with 249, because part of it is under HECTRA jurisdiction, and part of it is under Montgomery County jurisdiction, and then part of it is Texas DOT jurisdiction.
Montgomery County?
Yeah, so what they did in the Houston Metro is that all of the counties that wanted to create their own separate tolling agencies, they did so. Like, there isn't an overarching tolling agency responsible for all of Greater Houston. Like, Harris County is obviously where HECTRA comes from, but also Montgomery County is allowed to do its own thing, and
oh my God.
Montgomery County is. I'm gonna pause this for a second because I am lagging for some reason. What is going on here? Sorry guys, stand by for a second. I'm going to plug this in and let's see if this will help matters a little bit here. Stand by for resolving technical difficulties here. Let's see. I just want to check my. Alright, the internet connection is fine. Let's try this again. It's going to take a few seconds to sort out, I think. Alright, let's see. Alright, I think it's working better now. Alright, I think we're good. So each county in the Houston Metro, whether it's Harris County or Fort Bend County to the south or Montgomery County to the north, they all created their own separate tolling agencies that are responsible for their own separate jurisdictions within the respective counties. So it becomes really strange when, for instance, you're driving the Fort Bend toll road in the south of the Metro and you go from Harris County maintenance to Fort Bend County maintenance. It's the same road, it's just that now you're in a different county, so a different county's agency is now responsible. The same thing happens up in the north of the Metro here with the 249 toll road, the Tomball Tollway, where you go from Harris County into Montgomery County, and then beyond Montgomery County, you're in Texas DOT territory. So you
I think of Montgomery County, Maryland.
Yeah, so
that's the first one that comes up to mind for a lot of people. I mean, that's one of the first ones I think of, especially in a metro area.
Yeah. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so the goofiness of jurisdictions and all that stuff it kind of comes to the forefront in examples such as that, and we'll try to break it down for you guys in a couple of weeks with the webinar on the tollway subject.
And this is Houston is not the only one, and it's not done by county, but Austin area has several sub-agencies that maintain the separate roads, which is why, for example, the SunPass is not accepted on State Route 183, for example, whereas KTAG and Pike Pass are, because those certain agencies do not accept the compatibility situations such as what ECTA does. And it really causes mass confusion. So I will gladly use my KTAG rather than my SunPass.
Right, yeah. Yeah, because we don't really talk about Kansas very much when it comes to toll roads, but Kansas is part of
we are not in Kansas anymore, thank you very much.
Well, I understand that, but yeah, Kansas is indeed part of the Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas interoperability network, minus Harris County, obviously. But
actually, they are part of Harris County.
See, I can't keep this nonsense straight with.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I get it. I know. Yeah, you make a good point. And it's ridiculous that there isn't more interoperability with more agencies. And don't even get me started on places like Louisiana and Alabama who are just stupid as far as that goes. But
right,
yeah, it's just
It does work. Need on Kansas does Kansas Turnpike Authority. KTAG does work with EasyTag.
See, I don't know if you mentioned that before, but I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, at least on the Kansas Turnpike.
Well, I mean, it's just you feel like you're in a 3-ring circus when you're trying to dissect like what is compatible with what nowadays, and it's just a complete free-for-all. And this is part of why I think that inevitably you're going to see national interoperability. It's coming. It's happening slower than I think we would like.
Right.
But it's inevitable. Like, you're seeing regions partner up now, like the Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas region. The Easy Pass region has recently expanded to Florida. There's going to be, sooner than we think, there's going to be national interoperability. It's just a matter of time. But until that happens, you're going to have stupid crap like what you're talking about with, EasyTag and Harris County not being interoperable with everybody, and, Louisiana being like, well, screw you, and other examples like that,
Mm-hmm.
Or like MacPass is like, well, the only people here that are going to be using MacPass probably don't have any other tags.
Right.
Well, yeah, because other than the Mackinac Bridge, and unless you're going to Canada, if you're a Michigan resident, there's no reason for you to have a toll pass of any kind.
All right.
So,
I mean, there are hints out there. I mean, with Illinois going to stickers, for example, that's an obvious hint out there, but there is no official documentation to support whether or not they're going to be adapting other toll agency interoperability. There was hints of California, Washington, and Utah blending in, but there is no official documentation of that either. So it is really vague what the future is for these interoperability rules, but that's the goal that we have.
Yep. Or will we start to see even international interoperability?
Yeah, I'd love to use my 407. Use the 407 easy on an easy
right.
pass.
There's a bridge in up Montreal that they it was for the on Route 25, where they were it was a toll bridge, but if you weren't from Quebec, they were not sending you a bill.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the 825 bridge.
Is this flyover here going to the Hardy Toll Road, by the way?
Yeah, so we did pass the northern I-45 tollway stack, and we passed the Hardy Toll Road interchange. You'll notice, or you may have noticed, that there were not all of the ramp movements there are direct. You do have to use the frontage road for some of those. That is not unusual in Houston. Way back near the beginning of the video, I don't think we mentioned this, but when we passed the Fort Bend Toll Road on the south side of the metro, there are practically no direct ramps between those two highways. The Hardy Toll Road, real quick, is a relief route for I-45. It kind of shadows I-45 to the east a little bit. It does provide more direct access to Intercontinental Airport, but it serves that same north-south axis on the north side of Houston Metro.
This is where Hector gets you hooked, because if you're taking I-45 directly to the Houston IAH, you're going to end up getting tolled anyway, because the road from I-45 to that airport is a toll road itself.
Yeah, if you're taking that access road, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple access roads into the airport proper, but yeah, the one you're speaking of is a toll road. Yep.
Save that for the Houston webinar.
We'll have a lot to talk about in the next couple of weeks. Yep. So we're now east of I-45. So we're now on one of I think this is the single longest non-toll sections of the Sam Houston Loop. On overhead signs, this highway will have Beltway 8 shields, and it will also not be called Sam Houston Tollway. It will be called Sam Houston Parkway, which I believe the Parkway name applies to the frontage roads. In addition to the Beltway 8 shields, you will see it referred to as Sam Houston Parkway.
That would not surprise me.
Yeah, but this is the only significant section of the loop where where the main lanes are referred to as Sam Houston Parkway. And this is the heaviest trafficked section of the Sam Houston Loop. And we're due north of downtown Houston at this point.
Okay, I wonder why it's so heavy.
Yeah, you'll notice how as we approach the I-69 interchange, you have Beltway 8 decals on the pavement, and that's another indication that you're on the free quote-unquote section of the highway at this point. But yeah, this is going to be the northeastern I-69 interchange, and when we reach the interchange, you'll see that there's a sign that says last free exit, and there's another sign that says begin Sam Houston Tollway up ahead. So we will re-enter the Hectra tolling system beyond the I-69 stack, which is another one of my favorite Houston interchanges. There are a lot of interchanges in Houston that I really like. My day job is a civil engineer, so I love bridges and I love the big, the Texas-sized interchanges. Well, this is another Texas-sized stack interchange here that we're passing through.
You won't find these in New York. Period.
No, you won't. Unless you're in Albany.
You're going to come close in Albany. And I say there are some states where you come close to finding interchanges that are this size. I mean, for example, the 105-110 interchange in Los Angeles is a good example. The 787-90 example is an example in Albany. The Marquette interchange, 9443 in Milwaukee, is a pretty close example.
There's one in Richmond, Virginia, too, that kind of reminds me. It has like the really high, the high level ramps.
Yes, I know what you're talking about, but I forget what the route name is.
95.
I think that's a toll road.
895, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that one's interesting because it feeds directly into the James River Bridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and I think the ramps are that high because of the bridge. Because I believe the James River is navigable up to Richmond, and the marine terminal is actually north of the bridge.
That is correct.
So they allow cargo ships in there because it's so high.
Yeah, so I was in Richmond last spring for a wedding, and I took the opportunity to redocument the freeway system around Richmond because I hadn't been there in like a decade.
Yeah.
So ocean-going vessels, it's interesting that the James River is more or less at sea level up until you get to where the Port of Richmond is, and then beyond that is what they call the fall line, and that's where there's like a ridge that happens, and then the James River kind of like traverses the city of Richmond on like there's kind of like rapids, and there's not waterfalls, but it's like it's a relatively rapid descent towards sea level. So the furthest upriver that ocean-going vessels can go on the James River is where the Port of Richmond is located, which is just downriver from downtown. And because the 895 bridge was built where in that zone where ocean-going vessels can traverse, that's why it had to be as large as it is.
Yeah, and I was really tempted to take those, but it's like, I think I can find freer options elsewhere, like the High Five. And it's I didn't get a chance until 22 to travel through downtown Richmond / Petersburg because priorities were on getting to your destination rather than taking the roads at the time. I had my mom and my brother with me. And it's quite interesting what I found when I drove through there. So the other time I drove 295.
Yeah.
So let's bring the conversation back to Houston for a second, because we are now northeast of the metro. This is the newest section of the tollway to be complete. I think it was completed about 2010 or 2011, something like that. The thing that you see on the overhead signs is it says easy tag only. And this is not just a Sam Houston tollway thing. This is something you'll see around Houston Metro, where
this is extra.
It is tag only. Like, there is no like pay by mail provision. So traveling this or any other tag only section of the Hectra system without a toll tag would incur a fine.
It would be a violation.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, I have sort of mixed feelings about that. I can understand why they do it. I think part of it is a traffic management standpoint. They are trying to keep these highways free flowing, which from that standpoint, I don't mind it, but also you are discriminating against people who don't have tags who would use the highway if they could. There is a non-zero number of people who would use the highway who do not fall in the easy tag bracket. So I'm not the biggest fan of it.
K-tag, or Pike Pass, toll tag.
So I'm a little unclear as to what easy tag only actually means. I think it means generally tag only. Right. So that means, like, if you have a Texas tag, I think you're good.
Yes, tag.
They're discouraging the use of this highway by non-tag vehicles. That's my understanding of what's going on here.
And of course, they don't give you a clear, as I said, you don't give you a clear definition of what they're talking about. They're trying to state the obvious and leave the rest up to judgment or interpretation.
Well, and I think part of the reason is that they're smart to say this, right? That the vast majority of people who are going to use this highway are Harris County or Houston area residents.
Right.
So by advertising it as just an easy tag thing is not going to throw many people off in general.
Probably not.
Unless you're a road geek like me and you're like, what the hell is this easy tag only thing? But I'm driving a rental car that has a NTTA toll tag in it. Like, what does that mean? You know? But I think that, and I didn't encounter a problem when I drove this road in 2023 with an NTTA tag. So I'm assuming that means that they're good with any toll tag that is compatible with Hectra.
Well, I'm going to find out when I drive down there with my own personal K-tag whether that works or not.
I would think you're good.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm thinking the same thing because as much as the websites tend to think otherwise, you have to do your research and know what you're doing before you go on these roads. But I have pretty high confidence that these roads will be interoperable with the other agencies, despite what Hectra is telling us. And as you said, Hectra is telling us the obvious. They're accepting their easy tag. So they're just going to say easy tag. Otherwise, you're going to have a pretty busy sign and you're going to have to stop to read it.
Yeah, because then you're going to be like Florida, and then every few miles you have to put up a sign that says, oh, payment methods accepted, and you have like 72 different toll tags listed.
Yeah,
you know?
because Florida accepts pretty much everything nowadays.
Yeah, well, Florida has taken it to the extreme, yeah, but...
Yes.
Yeah. I that was not a thing when I was last in Florida, which has actually been several years at this point, so I've missed a lot of the conversion to interoperability in Florida. But, yeah, it is pretty annoying every few miles when you're on a tollway to see a sign that says, oh, by the way, we accept K-tag. I'm like, well, that's great. All right. All six people who drove the expressway system who are from Kansas, I'm sure, are happy. You know,
exactly.
Right.
See, I drove the Florida toll roads about the time that the tollway was rebuilding their site, and I did not get any feedback from whether or not I was getting charged for a number of weeks, and that was nerving, and that kind of told me when I was in Miami area to kind of avoid them. So I only did the express lanes on 595 and outside and the Florida Turnpike Sawgrass extension for a short term, but other than that, I took back roads.
Yeah.
In Miami. So it's like I was down on surface roads in Miami, and that's not a pretty sight.
Yeah, I'd rather pay the toll myself.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't trust a website because it's like, I can't prove whether this is working.
Yeah, but you're seeing the traffic volume here, right? Like we're northeast of the metro. Well, exactly. Like there's hardly anybody on this section of highway, and this is the lightest traffic section of the Sam Houston Loop.
Yep.
And it is also the lightest populated section of the greater Houston metro out this way. But yeah, I mean, I'm just of the opinion that would it kill Hectra to allow toll by plate options? Like I don't think it would change a whole lot. There is, as I said, a non-zero percentage of traffic that would add to the volume.
But you're talking about a business in the United States of America that can do whatever the hell they want.
Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I hear you. That's true.
So it's like Walmart accepting Apple Pay.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. They're not going to do that.
But you will see a Beltway 8 shield overhead, which means we are leaving the toll system for the time being. As we're now east of downtown Houston. We're approaching the eastern I-10 interchange. Which means that we're going to be able to talk about what I think is easily the most interesting chapter in the history of the Sam Houston Loop, and that is the Ship Channel Bridge. So I want to give you guys a little bit of backstory on this bridge before we get to it in a few miles. So the first section of what became the Sam Houston Tollway Loop was the Sam Houston Ship Channel Bridge, which was built as a separate, unrelated project originally. It opened to traffic in 1982. It was intended to be just another connector between the north and south sides of the ship channel in the far eastern suburbs of Houston. It was later incorporated into the greater Sam Houston Loop project in the 80s and 90s. This is why when you're on the east side of Houston, you will see shields for Beltway 8 toll bridge. And that is the bridge that they're talking about. It is the Ship Channel Bridge. A lot of these shields still survive in the wild, especially on the south side of the ship channel, like along Highway 225, for instance. There are a lot of old shields that have probably never been replaced. They're probably 40 years old or older. I've photographed quite a few of them in my multiple visits to Houston over the years. But those are, if you're a road geek and you like old signs, there's still a lot of old Beltway 8 toll bridge shields in the wild. The bridge itself, as I said, was completed in 1982. It is 2 lanes in each direction with no shoulders. It is very substandard by today's standards. Hectra embarked on a project to replace this bridge in 2020 with a new signature cable stay bridge. As a civil engineer who has experience with large-scale cable stay bridge construction, I can tell you that I actually know people who they went from the Tappan Zee Constructors joint venture at the end of 2019, and they transitioned onto the Ship Channel Bridge team, which they got their work going, I think, in 2019. The construction finally started in 2020 or something like that. So I know people who went there and who were looking forward to that project, and then the project unfortunately turned into a shit show because the original designer was fired. They were thrown off the project because of what turned out to be serious design issues with the original proportions or the foundations of the original design. They had to be redone. So another design firm was brought in to redo the design, and they reworked a bunch of stuff. The main span, foundations, and the work that had been completed on the towers had to be abandoned and scrapped and they had to start over. Here's the bridge as we reach it here. You'll notice how the approaches of the new bridge are taking shape. However, they dead end in midair because the main span has to be done over again. So that has been a midair stub for multiple years and will continue to be in the future as we cross onto the existing ship channel bridge. So the design of the main span had to be revised significantly. Work recently began again on the revised main span design. The problem here is that this has set back the project multiple years. It was originally supposed to be fully complete in 2024. However, they're now eyeing potentially the end of the decade for final completion. And what is kind of complicating this project is that this new bridge is a twin span. So they're building the first new span to the west of the existing bridge, and the second twin span is to be built in the footprint of the existing bridge following that bridge's demolition. So that's why you have the setup that you have, where you have one half of the new bridge being built alongside the existing, and then the second half will be built at a later date. So that's why you have the elongated timeline of completion. So as I said, the approaches were completed years ago, and there was never anything found wrong with with their design. So those are fine. That area of the bridge is fine. It's just that the main span had to be completely reimagined and redone. So that's kind of what contractors are now in the midst of building. They're building the new look. I mean, it's not... They didn't change really the look of the bridge above the waterline, but they had to redo the foundation design. That was the biggest issue. It's worth noting that this wasn't the only major bridge project in Texas that was impacted by this debacle with this design firm. The same design firm actually did the designing for the Corpus Christi Bridge on US 181. That project was suspended for multiple years for similar issues that were found. So that project has also recently gotten underway again. And that project was set back multiple years as well. So it's just been a mess. The Houston situation with the ship channels seems to have been rectified, and construction is finally underway on that once again. And the Corpus Christi project has restarted recently as well. But it has been, unfortunately, a really difficult period between design and final construction in both cases.
That's got to be a serious setback as far as budgets are concerned.
Yeah, well, the cost...
The balloons.
So the way, well, I don't know how it's going to work out. Ultimately, these things end up in court, and the lawyers decide who's responsible for back charges and whatnot.
And that balloons the budget right there using the lawyers' fees.
Yeah, I think that well, anytime you have a major setback like this, it adds hundreds of millions of dollars to the budget.
Oh, yeah.
And the problem is that Hectra is a self-sufficient organization. Everything they do is funded by toll revenue. So they now have to come up with however many hundreds of millions of dollars that they weren't planning on having to finance. You know, they're having to come up with it somewhere.
It certainly doesn't surprise me, given the fact that they did have toll rate increases into the new year. I had to research what I had done last year for this year in order to make sure I got an accurate estimate of tolls I got there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, so Hectra is dealing with the situation at the Ship Channel Bridge, and then it would be bad enough if there was one big project that was having these issues, but there are two projects that are...
With Corpus Christi.
Yeah, the other one being Corpus Christi. Now, that one is a Texas DOT domain, so that's a state-level issue. That's not a Harris County issue, but still, it's the same problem where you just... It's hundreds of millions of dollars that are just flushed down the toilet, and you've got to figure out what the hell you're going to do as a result. So, and I can tell you, I can't disclose a lot of information, but I can tell you that these things, as I said, they end up before court, and they end up in the hands of attorneys, and these things drag out over many, many years. So, this is... And I can tell you how the story ends. It ends with somebody writing a check to the client.
Of course.
But it takes years to get to that point. Because ultimately the people who win out in situations like this are those in the legal business. Those are the only people who make money in the end. You know, it's kind of the dirty little secret, but you know, that is unfortunately, or I'm not even saying it's unfortunate, it is what it is, but that's just kind of how these things roll.
Yeah.
Right. It's the reality of the situation.
Yeah,
it's really my homes, and that's really all I got to say about that.
Well, yeah, and you know, the thing that sucks is that in the case of the Houston project, and I think this is also the case in the Corpus Christi project, but these big design build joint ventures are a situation where a contractor hitches with a design firm, and the two form a legal bond with each other. So what happens is that the general contractor can't escape liability for a bad design because they're one and the same in a design-build situation. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not like your traditional project where a contractor comes in and bids for a design that's already completed.
Right.
You know, when you are in the design-build situation, you are not only building the project, you are also designing the project. So,
but you're responsible for all of the risks that are involved.
That is the difference.
Right.
That is what separates design-build from other methods
You're
of construction.
responsible for all the risks that are involved in putting this bridge up, and if it falls, you're the one on the hook.
That's the difference. Yeah. So
Yep.
that's where this gets really messy, because the contracting side didn't do the actual design that was screwed up, but they are still legally responsible under the design build criteria because they formed this union with this design firm.
Right.
So
exactly.
that's where the lawyers get involved, and that's where this gets really ugly. And again, I can't say too much, but I know that that's exactly the kind of thing that's going to go on. And you're not going to hear about that. It's not going to be something that makes the papers, but it's
no, they're not going to try to keep that under the radar as much as they can.
No, yeah, and rightfully so, right? Because any kind of negative publicity is really nasty in terms of
it hurts.
In terms of everything, right? So, you'll see it in a Friday afternoon headline a few years from now that, oh, by the way, somebody wrote a check to Hectra for $300 million or whatever it's going to be, I don't know that that's the number. I'm just saying, hypothetically. Right. So they're going to sweep it under the rug a few years from now, and it'll be whatever. And then people will have a nice bridge to drive over in the end, and it'll have taken many years to get to the end result, but we'll get there. And unfortunately, it's going to be a bumpier ride than this professional engineer and everybody else would have liked. But it is what it is.
Speaking of end results, coming back to I-45 South.
Oh, hey, look, we completed our lap around Greater Houston. How about that? So we are back at the I-45 interchange where we started. And I will leave you in this video with this turn onto I-45 North, which features a pretty cool view of downtown Houston kind of looming off in the distance, about 10 miles away to the north. I know we spent a lot of time there talking about the Ship Channel Bridge situation and some of the particulars of it, but I do want to thank you all for being a part of it. I hope I didn't bore you to tears with all that stuff, but I do think it's important to kind of go over some of that stuff that's going to be going on with respect to that project in the years ahead, because that whole debacle was something that made national headlines. It wasn't just a Houston thing. And the same thing is true with the Corpus Christi situation too. Like it's really unprecedented that you have two projects of such large portions of such national significance that both go sideways at the same time for the same reason. So yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the people who are involved with that directly. But, engineers are strong people, and we'll get through it. That's all you can do, You
have to be diligent and patient on what you're doing.
Yeah, and every once in a while there's an example that comes up that just kind of reminds you that engineering is a science, number one, and is an inexact science, and engineers are fallible just like everybody else. However, when engineers fail, the results are not only deadly, but they can also be spectacular. Spectacular for the wrong reason.
All right.
So and this I think is sort of, as I see it within my profession, I see this as a bit of a wake-up call, which I think in the long run will be a good thing. I think we will learn a lot of lessons for what has gone wrong in Texas these last few years. Unfortunately, we're going to have to sort of deal with the fallout in the short term, but I think in the long run we'll be better off for having had to go through that. We are welcome to take your questions in the chat. Whether you want to talk about the ship channel bridge, or you want to talk about anything that you've seen in Houston,
there is a comment there that just came in that Cameron Red Eye had mentioned. The Hectra has plans to slowly phase in the cash lanes that were closed during COVID.
Yeah, so there was a push, and I know this is true in Maryland, for instance, where the state had a plan to go cashless anyway, but they kind of expedited it because of COVID. I don't know the story with that in Houston. It may have been a similar deal where they were planning to phase it out, but then they just did it anyway. But yeah, that is interesting. If they're planning on bringing back cash collection, that would run counter to everything else that's happened elsewhere in the country.
Well, I mean, not everyone did go to electronic only. Illinois did, and they're not bringing back cash anytime soon. In fact, they have been removing cash toll plazas. New Jersey Turnpike, on the other hand, did bring back cash collection.
Yeah, they did. Yep. And they are kind of in this weird middle ground where they have it on their long-term plan to go completely cashless.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that would be the right way to go in this situation right now, because when it comes to jobs like that, that might be an argument that someone might have, that you're taking away jobs, but there is a very fuzzy line when it comes to what you're talking about here, and a lot of arguments can be made in any direction with regards to that. I feel like having these barriers in the middle of the road is pointless. Agencies like the Illinois Tollway and the cash lanes can really screw up traffic flow, which is bad enough, yes. If they keep the easy tag, text tag, whatever they want to call lanes, yes, they can have through traffic go through there, but then you got people that are having to weave out of the main traffic to get off the freeway, get off the highway in order to pay cash tolls. Illinois eliminated that. New York State Tollway eliminated that. Mass Pike eliminated that. Maryland is on the process of eliminating that. I don't know if they're going to they're pulling out some toll booths, but not all.
Yeah, well, Maryland is completely cashless. They just haven't removed all the toll booths yet.
No, I know they did remove it from 95, but the bridges in Baltimore haven't been completely pulled yet.
Yeah, they I don't know if they've actually awarded the contract to remove the toll booths on the Harbor Tunnel Thruway, for instance.
Right, or the McHenry.
Yeah, McHenry I think they started that.
Okay, good.
Somewhat recently, yeah.
Because when I was up there, they were still there.
Yeah, well, I mean, Maryland, as I said, they went cashless well before they intended to. So that's why there's the delayed reaction, because they weren't planning on.
I don't think there was any intention for Illinois to go cashless until the pandemic hit.
Right.
And when the pandemic hit, they were going to do it temporarily. So yes, they were planning on bringing cash lanes back, but then they made the ultimate decision to go permanent electronic only. And in this case, they did instill a pay-by-plate program.
Well, that's all I got tonight.
Yeah.
Same.
If anybody's got questions, we can take questions for a little while if people have them. In general, okay. So here's an interesting.
Not have frontage roads that they have. They do.
You're talking about the question that just came in, right?
Yeah. Depends on what state you're in. Texas, yeah. There's no brainer.
Yeah, Texas has frontage roads everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's
Texas is the frontage road state. Whereas if you go to East Coast areas or even in the Midwest, such as Illinois or Indiana, no, you're not going to find frontage roads. The closest roads that you have are U.S. or state routes that are following nearby that you have to use in order to take alternate roads.
Well, the Long Island Expressway has frontage roads, or service roads, but I don't think they're quite the same as the ones in Texas.
Not by a long shot.
Right.
Yeah. So the nomenclature varies depending on where you are in the country. So, like, there's frontage road that's used in Texas mainly. There's also service. There's service road, which is you see that used in Louisiana, like in the West Bank Expressway. They use the term service road down that way. Service
Access road.
What's that?
Access road.
Okay, yeah, that's another one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a difference in how traffic is routed too. I mean, the service roads in New Orleans are two-way, whereas in Texas they're one-way, going with the flow of the main lanes of traffic.
Yeah.
So each system does things differently.
I find that the frontage roads or the service roads on the expressways around New Orleans have very much a Texas accent to them.
They do. But
so it's, I guess if you're looking for a comparison in that part of the country, I would say Texas is the closest. And certainly
Arkansas does. Arkansas has a similar situation along their freeways. 55 in the northeast corner of the state between Missouri and Memphis has plenty of service roads but they are two-lane, like in Louisiana, in New Orleans.
Yeah. And there are parts of the country where these interstates were built to supplant the existing U.S. highway system, where the frontage road is basically the old U.S. highway. So you'll be driving along, and there will be a frontage road off to your side, even though you're in the middle of the countryside. But that's because there was an old U.S. highway where the interstate was built alongside.
For example, I-55 has US 61 running alongside it, right around where I-55, formerly US 67, connected with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good conversation this evening, guys.
Yeah.
Whether that was the three of us or the folks in the live chat who were, I know, trying to play like celebrity matchmaker with Roadway Whiz for a while there, but I appreciate the effort. It's
well, the ladies need to hurry hard to you.
I don't disagree with that. I will not go on a tangent about that. I will just simply say that I agree with you, Doug.
That works for me.
But I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you all for contributing in the live chat. That was a lot of fun. And thank you to Doug and Sconson for being my guest panelists this week. And we're back, of course, with another presentation next week. And we'll be right back in the Houston Metro talking about freeways and all that other good stuff. So I hope you guys can join us for that. Guys, you have any closing thoughts that you wanted to get off your chest before we sign off, or did you basically say everything you wanted to say?
Well, you'll never, there's always something different that will come about with these shows.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know what you might hear when we're on
or expect,
TV. I know. Yeah.
I will say that despite whatever conversations come up, they're really intriguing, even if they do get a little crazy.
Well, that's one of the things that I think makes what we do special, is that we do go off the rails and we do get crazy every once in a while, but that's okay.
Right. Hey, crazy's my middle name. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you know what? That's a common middle name with Road Geeks, I think.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Crazy? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're back next week. And until then, thank you for watching. And we will see you next week. I'm looking forward to being home for next week's show. But until then, happy travels, be safe out there, and we'll catch you next time.